Welcome to the Pop Culture Lab, where we break down your favorite movies and TV shows. This week, we're talking about Loki Season 2. Cameron, let's get in the lab.
Let's go.
Back in the lab, sir.
Let's talk about Marvel shit.
Oh, yeah. Twice in a row.
Oh, yeah.
I know you guys are hungry for more Marvel discussion.
I love that most of our audience, our diminished audience, our fairly limited audience, most of them don't even like Marvel stuff, but we're going to feed it to them anyways.
Yeah, our most diehard listeners couldn't give a crap, but guess what? That's what we want to talk about. So, yeah. Loki Season 2. We won't get ahead of ourselves here, but man, that was a great. It was a great season. It was a great second season of a great show. Probably the show finale for all we know. Very likely.
Seems like it.
But a really, really quality show.
If we're going to subject our listeners to Marvel talk, at least it'll be a good one this time.
Yeah.
I think both of us agree that Loki, the first season, was one of the best projects that Marvel has come out with in a long time, and season 2 was no exception. It was continued that.
Yeah, they knocked it out of the park. So
yeah,
very excited. How are you? Before we even jump into what you've been watching, how the heck are you doing?
Oh, I'm good, man. I'm good.
Great.
Life is good. I feel like all of our friends are popping out babies, which is exciting.
Wow.
Got some baby showers going on, and yeah, life is good.
Yeah.
Heading
life springing up. Sorry.
Heading at breakneck speed into the holiday season here.
We are. Speaking of babies and families.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. This time next year there will be lots of little babies to buy Christmas presents for.
Oh my God, I know. It's Christmas has gotten expensive. Is it just me?
Oh yeah,
man. I was like, we've like almost bought all our gifts already this year. We just went on Black Friday, Cyber Monday.
Yeah, that's the way to do it.
Psycho spree. But man, you look at it and you're like, even though I'm quote unquote saving here, it's like, woof. I don't remember Christmas being so expensive.
At these prices, you can't afford not to.
I know. I used to buy like my parents' socks. Now times have changed. But
well, so what have you been watching, man?
What have I been watching? Let's see. Pull out the old list here. Why don't I tell you 4 things? Tell me which one you want to hear about.
Okay.
First one is Monarch: Legacy of Monsters.
Okay.
This is in the
Godzilla
Monsterverse.
Sure.
Yeah. Godzilla, King Kong. So that's in the Monsterverse. Dumb Money.
Right.
New movie.
About the GameStop Wall Street Bets folks on Reddit.
Bingo. Yep. Weird, the Al Yankovic story.
Oh, with Daniel Radcliffe?
Yeah.
Okay.
That was it. Shadow in the Cloud. I'm not sure if you've come across that. Chloe Grace Moretz, I think, is the one who's in that one.
I don't know that one.
Yeah.
Well, I want to hear about the Weird Al Yankovic movie, as you can probably tell from my reaction.
I can tell that from your reaction. Dude, it was really funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was great.
It's a documentary?
It's unclear from the marketing. I had that impression too. And it's like a mockumentary.
Okay.
So it's like the closest thing I would compare it to probably is, have you seen Walk Hard?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like that. But Weird Al's sense of humor and sensibility. It's really good. I like it a lot. If you just like Weird Al, I mean, I've even dug up these videos. I found them on YouTube, and they're like old. I'm not sure if Weird Al had a show or what, but he would do these like quote unquote interviews with celebrities, but he would actually take like an existing interview and like cut himself into the other half of it, asking questions, and he would make the background behind him look exactly like the interview. And it's just really funny, like very clever editing but goofy Weird Al humor.
Yeah.
And this just really keeps in theme with his style. I got a total kick out of it. None of it's true at all.
Sure.
It's completely ridiculous.
Yeah.
But it's really funny. Rachel Evan Wood as Madonna is definitely a highlight.
Okay.
She's really good. She's like one of the big characters in the movie, arguably the villain, I guess. Yeah, I mean, I would say, like, again, comparing it to Walk Hard, I guess there aren't that many, like, comedic biopics or spoof biopics.
Sure.
But it's like one of the best ones, I think, ever. Like, next to Walk Hard, it's the funniest spoof biopic I've ever seen.
It's got some Christopher Guest genetics in there, it sounds like.
Yeah, not like so much of the interviewing kind of, I guess not documentary. Let me be clear. Biopic.
Okay.
Like, so it's strictly a biopic.
Yeah.
But it's really funny. Yeah.
That sounds great. I mean, yeah, I love Weird Al. I enjoy Daniel Radcliffe's strange taste in movies and what he wants to be in. So that sounds right up my alley.
He pulls it off just swell. Yeah, it's great.
Perfect.
Yeah. Just check it out. How about yourself?
Well, this week I thought I would talk about something a little different. Throw a little curveball at you, which is something that I've been playing. Hogwarts Legacy.
Oh, no.
Yes.
Well. On what platform?
This is on PlayStation.
Okay.
Yeah, earlier this year, they released a highly anticipated but also controversial because of J.K. Rowling and her commentary on her Twitter account and whatnot.
Oh, you can't make any more Harry Potter, like, franchised crap?
Not without getting a lot of shit for it. But
really?
I mean, it still sold a bajillion copies, so I don't think it really kept people away for the most part.
Oh my God! Wait till I find out Bob Kane was a child molester.
Oh dear! Oh dear! But yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where there were people who review bombed it. There were critics who gave it a 0 because of J.K. Rowling, and she. I mean, to be fair, she does. For every copy that's sold, she gets a portion of the money that goes to that because she owns the IP. So I recognize that it is problematic to do it, but man, the little child Cameron who grew up on Harry Potter, I was thrilled to just have this experience. It's exactly what I would have dreamed of then, of the experience of being sorted into a Hogwarts house and exploring the castle. And
you get all that in the game?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
You get sorted?
You get sorted. You are
Is it always the same?
Hogwarts student. No, you get to choose which house basically you want to be in.
Oh, you like answer the Sorting Hat's questions?
Yeah.
You have a little chat with it?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
And so a couple pros and cons. That's a little sneak peek to our conversation. Yeah, really, really fun. Highlights, I would say, are the fact that the magic of the castle is totally there. I felt just awestruck just walking around it. It is really a beautifully designed game. In that way, it captures that magical feeling. Wow. It perfectly. The actual gameplay itself, I think. The story isn't doing anything special. I would say since you've played the Zelda games, it's borrowed heavily from Zelda Breath of the Wild.
Open world.
It's open world
within Hogwarts, but you're doing puzzles and can you jump on a broom and fly around and play fucking Quidditch?
Absolutely, you can't play Quidditch, but yes, you can fly around on a broom, which is fun. Yeah, I mean all that stuff is really cool. The story is pretty underwhelming, I think.
Sounds like it.
There's some side quests and stuff. It'll keep you busy for a week, I would say, probably. But fairly simplistic, I would say. There is definitely going to be a sequel because, like I said, it sold just a bajillion copies. So they're gonna make more.
Did you do the Dumbledore's Chambers side quest?
No.
This sounds like something that would be in a game like that.
No, but I mean, like, you get to explore the entire castle. It is huge.
Cool.
It is really easy to get lost in there, and even after playing through
Can
the
you go
whole game, I was
underground
still
and
getting
like
lost.
hang out with Tom Riddle?
I didn't find the Chamber of Secrets, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's in there.
Well, it should be, right?
It
Somewhere.
should be, yeah.
In
Yeah, they
theory.
have all sorts of other crazy stuff. They have the Room of Requirement. They have, almost everything you can think of.
Wow.
So very, very fun game.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Nice.
Go play it if you haven't, and if you grew up with Harry Potter, I think you'll have a good time with it.
Is there anything else you would like to share?
No, I think that's good.
That's what you brought?
Yep.
All right. I won't take too much time, but I will say just Dumb Money I would recommend.
Yeah.
Definitely a good watch on that one.
And that is a documentary.
No.
No?
No.
Oh, it's what is it?
Like fiction.
Oh, I thought it was about the Wall Street Bets people.
Well, okay, yes, but it's based on a true story. It's a movie film. It's got Michael. It's got
So it's like the Social Network type shit. It's like dramatized.
Yeah, it's got Seth Rogen.
Yeah, okay.
And what's his name? Who played the Riddler? Why am I blanking? What's his name?
Paul Dano?
Yeah, Paul Dano.
Oh, okay, nice.
Paul Dano, Seth Rogen, Sebastian Stan.
Yeah.
A bunch of people. So, it was a dramatization, but it was entertaining, definitely entertaining, illuminating on the subject, did a pretty good job of explaining it. It was just like trying hard to be The Big Short and came short of quite being probably that and that clever.
Yeah.
And smart, but entertaining nonetheless, well cast, but still felt like it didn't make the best use of its cast per se. Everyone was just kind of mimicking and they were kind of going through the motions of just what happened. And I think sometimes these true stories can get so bogged down in like accuracy that you forget to like make a movie with acting, and they're just kind of standing there saying blah, blah, blah. Like, even, what's his face from Parks and Rec? Ron Swanson is in the movie, but in this kind of small part.
Nick Offerman.
It leaves, Nick Offerman, he leaves no impression because he's just kind of a stand-in for this like big boss type. And I don't know, like no one really gets a big opportunity to like flex their acting, or maybe Paul Dano a little bit, but, so it was pretty good, but
sounds pretty forgettable.
a bit, but if you're in the mood for like a true story and you're curious about it, like it's funny and worth a watch, like well written, well paced, really fun music. So, a lot to say as well. And definitely I would say check out Monarch Legacy of Monsters. I'm telling you, Kurt Russell and his son Wyatt Russell play the same character in different like periods of time. Super cool. Dude.
I think
Not a lot of monsters, not too many monsters. Heavy on the human drama.
I know this is an audio medium, but I think even our listeners can hear me rolling my eyes right now.
Yeah, I guess, but like I don't know. I think I told you about this. There's the main characters basically like, well, if the main character is this one girl, her dad has a whole other family and another son and another wife in Japan, and she's from San Francisco. And he's like lived this like complete double life she had no idea about, and so really it's like the plot is focused on that, not like big monster smash. So it's not really stupid.
Okay.
And it's and there's a lot of flashbacks to the past with Kurt Russell's character and their grandmother and another guy who ends up being John Goodman in one of the movies. So it does a good job of like connecting the whole universe, creating kind of interest and like lore around the Monarch organization, which are the people who kind of track and study and understand the monsters.
Okay.
It's pretty cool.
All right.
I think it's quite well done, actually, to be honest with you. The whole thing is a theme of symmetry, of course, and double lives and all this stuff. I really enjoy this theory that probably is going to turn out to be true, because in the Godzilla movie, in Godzilla versus Kong, actually, Godzilla goes underground, kind of like into they have this hollow Earth theory, and it turns out to be true. And the Earth is hollow, and there's like an Earth within the Earth, and it's like there's mountains upside down, like mountains going this way and mountains going this way, and it's. I mean, visually and from like a CGI point of view, amazing. Like this movie is 100% worth watching for the visuals alone and the fights between the two titans, even though the rest is kind of stupid. But the whole Hollow Earth thing, I think there's going to be tunnels where this guy basically traveled super fast between like San Francisco and Japan in order to have this like double life and like these two wives and be there really, really quick.
Huh.
Because there's another scene like later on where she had a flashback to her dad and she was calling him like after a Godzilla attack or something. The Godzilla attack in San Francisco, and she's like, oh my God, which is the first Godzilla movie in 2014. He attacks San Francisco, and she's calling her dad like, oh, help, I'm so scared. Can you be here really soon? And he's there in like 2 minutes.
Yeah.
It's like, well, how did that work? And I think he's doing
Traveled
something
through the Earth.
Something. Some people think it's teleportation. I'm like, I think he's got a tunnel. I think he's got a super fast.
He's got one of those Elon Musk tube things.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He's shooting through the tube. That even shows up in like Batman Forever. I think it is. He like tubes from his tower, Wayne Tower, like all the way to.
Tenacious D called it way back in the early 2000s.
I know. Tubes.
Tube technology.
So, those are the things I wanted to talk about. That's about it. Okay. I'll shut up. But Shadow in the Cloud is pretty cool.
Oh my God. So you asked me which one I wanted you to talk about, then you talked about all of them.
Guess what?
What a bait and switch.
Oops. Sucks to be you. No, I'll keep this one brief. It's like an hour and 25-minute silly movie. It's really crazy. It takes place in like World War II. This woman like gets aboard this little plane with a bunch of these like dickhead guys, and they kind of tease gremlins at the beginning of the movie, which if you know from like the
of course
William Shatner Twilight Zone thing, gremlins. There's something on the wing. Anyway, gremlins show up in this movie, but they're way scarier, and there's like these bat-like, monsters. And so this girl is battling these monsters. They lock her down in like essentially the gun. I can't remember what it's called, but the gun cockpit thing. It's like, so it's one of those planes where that's like
sure
sitting below, like in the underbelly of the plane.
Uh-huh.
And so she's down there, and so she can actually fire the guns and stuff, which is somewhat useful, but she ends up getting kind of stuck down there. She could like, the lever breaks, and so I love movies that take place in small, tight spaces. So it really, for the first 45 minutes of the movie, it's leaning into that. She's talking to the guys only through audio, like we are, through a headset, and they're giving her a hard time. She's seeing gremlins. They're not believing it. A lot of great tension built in the first 45 minutes. Spoiler alert, I'm just going to tell you. Where things go wrong for people, I determined, because a lot of the reviews were really up and down about this movie, is the twist comes like about 45 minutes, an hour in, when it's revealed that this girl who I'm telling you about, she brought this bag on the plane with her the whole time. So as soon as she got there, she's like, well, I'm on this top secret mission with this top secret bag, and you can't do anything about it. And it's revealed that one of the guys on board the plane, so it was revealed that inside the bag is a baby, and she's trying to protect her baby, this baby. And I think one of the guys on the plane is the dad as well. And so basically where it loses people, though, is the gremlins are attacking. There's other military forces attacking this plane. There's all kinds of crazy shenanigans going on. And the filmmakers don't bother to pay much mind for like the safety of this baby in a bag. Like, it's just kind of, she runs, she's running full speed, sprinting with a baby in the bag, just swinging about. And they're just like not thinking about that. And so from a suspension of disbelief standpoint, it was hard for a lot of people. And I only was going to be annoying and bring this one up because I just thought of you, who oftentimes doesn't suspend, his disbelief. And I think I am really, this isn't even a compliment to myself. I mean,
you're just much more willing to do it.
I'm an idiot. Yeah, I'm a little baby who just tell me a story. I do it very, very easily.
Sure.
So I had a really fun time with this movie. It's quick as a whistle. It's, like I said, it's barely 90 minutes. Cool monster design with the gremlins. Fun claustrophobia stuff. Great tension building. Fun action. Cool, I like the whole World War II kind of setting and all that stuff works really well. If you can just buy into whatever, there's a baby in that bag, and just let the action ensue and be fun, you'll have a great time.
Fair enough.
But some people can't do that, I guess, so.
Yeah, it doesn't really seem like my kind of a movie, but that's okay.
No, it doesn't, I guess.
That's all right, though.
That's for Alex Sarr, maybe, if you're looking for something stupid to watch. Even he might think that's shitty. Oh, well.
Yeah.
Maybe not Alex Sarr. Sorry. All right.
Well, let's get into it. Loki.
Let's do it.
Loki Season 2.
Low-key is low-key one of the best
Not even
arcs.
Loki, it's high-key.
Yeah, well...
Loki is high-key.
Loki is high-key or low-key, depending on your perspective. One of the best character arcs in the MCU. Let's start there.
I think so. It's hard to even know where to start with this because, Tom Hiddleston has been in the MCU longer than anybody.
He has. And actually, you're right. I know where to start. I have a brief synopsis.
Yes, please.
My mistake. So, for those who don't know, Loki Season 2 follows Loki Season 1, believe it or not. And it sees the God of Mischief working with the character Hunter B-15, who we all know and love. Mobius.
Mr. Owen Wilson. Wow.
Yeah, wow. Mobius. And newcomer OB, played by Ke-Huy Quan.
Mm-hmm. Our favorite.
Yeah. To find Sylvie, cure Loki's time slipping, which looks very painful and a little sticky, and ultimately save the TVA, that is the Time Variance Authority, and maybe also rise to something greater.
Yeah. Got lots of heart.
Yeah.
No, this is a great culmination of this character. Tom Hiddleston first appeared in the first Thor movie. So in the mid to late 2000s, he has been at this for going on almost 2 decades now in this role, which is incredible. Maybe 15 years, something like that.
Yeah, has he played the character like 7 times
in movies?
Yeah,
but yeah,
I think including this show.
Is that it?
I think that's about right.
Between the Avengers movies and the Thor movies.
Bear with us quickly. So Thor.
Yeah.
Thor Dark World. Avengers.
Yep.
Infinity Wars, where he dies and gets strangled. Loki. So that's 5 right there. Thor Ragnarok.
Right.
So that's 6.
Was he in Love and Thunder? I don't think so.
No. But I bet we can think of the last one. Is he in he's in Endgame.
Oh, of course.
Yeah. That's where he ends up on his path to Loki.
Right.
So there you go. There's all 7.
Yeah, he's been doing this for a long time. He apparently, behind the scenes, is also just really... he is very into this. For some actors, this is not maybe their passion. They are in it. It's, I'm sure, a great paycheck. It's kind of if you're a high-profile A-list actor in Hollywood, being in a Marvel movie is kind of a cherry on top of your career. All of the biggest actors essentially are now in some kind of Marvel movie, it seems like. But Tom Hiddleston, separate from that, he really genuinely seems to enjoy being part of these movies. And he invests his time and his energy into trying to make it really something special. And I think that shows up in this show for sure.
He does. I mean, he famously also auditioned for Thor originally. Yeah. So he's
to be Thor.
Yes.
Yeah.
He auditioned for the role of Thor. So he really has always cared about these characters and been interested. And I found on YouTube awesome footage. It was all like pieced together from different like iPhone footage of him in Hall H at Comic-Con, like I think probably right around the time of the first Avengers movie. Like he literally came out in character as Loki and like addressed the whole crowd and did this whole performance in front of like the biggest diehard fans, just the faces were melting.
Right.
It was so cool.
Yeah. Seems like a great guy.
Just like what you're saying, he's kind of gone above and beyond with this character and this role, and I think it's helped shape his career because you kind of alluded to, he's not some just big name actor that was slapped in like Christian Bale. He's been there since the early days, and his career has really grown with this character.
Absolutely, which I think it's the perfect project for that because it really investigates the nature of free will as many time travel projects are wont to do. But it also, I'm so glad that he was given a project like this, and I hope that he'll stick around in the MCU for a while longer, but this was certainly, it wrapped up some things about the character for sure. Mm-hmm. And I'm just so glad that Michael Waldron, who I think is probably the strongest writer in the Marvel world right now, I'm glad that this was the project that Tom Hiddleston gets to kind of go out on a high note with, if he does go out.
Well, it's funny you say this because I was going to save this little juicy tidbit for later, but Michael Waldron has been tapped to write Kang Dynasty and Secret Wars. Jeff Loveness has been replaced or he quit. So
interesting.
Yeah. So,
which is, I mean,
to answer your question about Loki perhaps coming back or the finality of that, I mean, I have a theory, not to get completely way ahead of ourselves, but I think that Loki could come back, especially with Michael Waldron being in the writer's chair.
Well, so let's we are certainly getting ahead of ourselves. Let's save that for the end of our discussion here. Let's talk about this season itself. So you gave us a little bit of a synopsis, but I think maybe a good place to go here is what yeah.
Oh no, go ahead.
What is it that you liked about Loki season 2? I think that both of us have established that we liked this season.
I liked it a lot. There's a lot of things I liked about it. Again, I think it was one of the better character arcs in the MCU. I think as someone who loves villains, I think taking both season 1 and season 2 together, it really honors a villainous character while also taking him on a real journey and again an arc that sometimes I feel like there's this redemptive arc for a villain that's kind of cheesy, and it ultimately ends up in kind of a similar place, but the way it gets there, the way it unfolds, I feel is just very unique and very thoughtfully executed, and really was well done from a perspective of Loki's character over the years. The way it ended, like you just said about free will and everything in Avengers, when Loki has his moment to really shine as a villain, he's trying to strip away free will. He's like, that's the thing that you are all cursed with, and like you really just want to be subjugated. And for his complete 180 over the course of these 2 seasons, even in the way he's behaving in the first few episodes of season 1, in his interviews with Mobius, and he was still talking at that time kind of about like free will is, should be taken away, and for him then to be fighting for it in this way and get the throne that he wants, but also not in the way that he wanted, and have to sacrifice. It's beautiful, frankly. It's really great. And I'll only say one thing because you told me to say this, but I'll say that about season 1 and season 2 of Loki, but comparatively to WandaVision, I think now for Disney Plus Marvel content, like Loki overall is the best, hands down. But if you'd asked me when it was just Loki season 1 and WandaVision season 1, I might have said that I think that the arc that Wanda goes through in season 1 of WandaVision is awfully damn complete and really good and better than what Loki goes through in just Loki season 1. More interesting, more compelling. But both those seasons together, better overall than WandaVision.
Yeah, I think that's fair. It's very interesting because they are such a reflection of the 2 characters, I think, too. That WandaVision was such a perfect self-contained story arc for that character.
Almost like a movie.
It really is. And emotionally intense, gut-wrenching. I mean, in terms of the dealing with grief and the lies that you tell yourself in order to cope with trauma and grief.
Right.
It was an emotionally raw experience in a way that Loki very much isn't.
No, it's more heady.
Loki is very much more cerebral as a project, and about the concepts it explores and the time travel, and it's much more conceptual, whereas I would say WandaVision is much more of like an emotionally grounded project. And I think those both work to their the strengths of the people who were developing each of those projects. I think I'd probably agree with you on that. It's of course it's impossible to kind of separate them, but yeah, just from a pure reaction standpoint, I will say that I think over time I have been more inclined to want to go back to Loki versus WandaVision was kind of a one-time experience that really left a strong impression, but I don't find myself wanting to go back and watch it as much.
I know what you mean, because I kind of recently revisited it, and I watched like the first 2 episodes, maybe 3, and it's doing all the like Dick Van Dyke and all that stuff, and you're like, I guess you know where it's going, so you're like excited for where it's going. But I'm also like, okay, well, I kind of know where it's going. It really had a lot of tension at the time. I saw it like as it aired, and it had a lot of tension because you're like, oh, well, what the hell is going on? I'm watching like the Dick Van Dyke Show, but it's a Marvel thing. Like, what's actually happening right now?
Right.
And then there would be these little teases that something is happening. And that really just kept you on your seat. So I think with the knowledge of all that going in, the suspense is not there as much, and you're just kind of like watching these silly episodes to kind of get to the more meaty stuff. But Loki is easier to revisit in a lot of ways because you can chew on the writing, I think, a lot more in a way that you can't with WandaVision. Well,
and I think Loki does a lot of work, I think, beyond... it's a meta commentary on the nature of comic books and of characterization and
Right.
of fate and destiny and
Right.
these archetypes. And so it is very self-referential in a way that WandaVision isn't. WandaVision is just much. It's a contained story about this one character. Loki is really interesting to talk about for a variety of reasons because it doesn't exist in a vacuum. It exists within the broader range. It's commenting. I mean, the whole first season of Loki is really, especially now having watched the second season, the first season of Loki strips away everything from Loki.
Right.
It one by one, it takes him down to his barest essence as a character. It is like you exist as a foil to the Avengers, to
Right.
Thor, your brother.
You're destined to lose.
You are destined to lose. You are destined to be the villain.
Right.
You are destined to end on the receiving end of all of this, and
so
that
that
is
they can step up and rise up.
exactly.
Yeah.
And it happens over and over and over. It happens in 1,000 different ways, in 1,000 different Lokis. What they look like. Here's the crocodile Loki. Here's girl Loki. You're all just an archetype, and
Which
this
is crazy.
your destiny.
Like, what a brilliant idea to think, like, what if we took this comic book character and we told him that?
Yeah.
Like, imagine being that character and understanding that. You know what I mean? That
Yeah.
you are essentially a comic book character. When you
Right.
think you're a full-fledged, free-willed human person, or not human, but being.
Well, and
Like-
when you leave Loki at the end of season 1, it is really kind of at his lowest point. He has had everything stripped from him.
Yeah.
He has had his identity as a villain or as whatever, his hubris, his ego has been stripped from him. But then his love interest has been stripped from him.
Yeah.
His even his what is the word I'm looking for? His adversary has essentially been stripped from him because Kang just invites it. He who remains, he says, go ahead, kill me. And so it ends with like, what is my purpose? And this season, what I love about it is it builds it back into something else. It builds that character and challenges that preconception of this is what you're destined to be. It is him finding out that he can be something else.
Right. Like he says to Mobius, like, I can't remember the exact line, or I think he says it to Mobius, but it's like that moment he's like, you can replace it with something better. Or no,
Yes.
he says it to Sylvie.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's like that's when he realizes.
Yes. Yeah.
Exactly that. Yeah.
I think there's before we got in the lab here, we were just briefly talking about some of this stuff, but I think that is what is exceptional about this. You can't make a time travel concept show or movie and not have it compared to lots of other timey-wimey projects. And what I love is that this really leans into that. There's lots of references to the bootstrap paradox and the grandfather paradox and all these time concept things. And so a couple examples of that are in this, of course, Ouroboros, that the snake eating its tail. That is the character Ke Huy Quan in this. The name is a reference to the bootstrap paradox. And
we see it play out in the season too with Victor Timely.
Right. Victor Timely and Ouroboros, they taught each other how to make the temporal loom. Like, it's unclear who started it because Timely wouldn't have been able to do it without the handbook that Ouroboros wrote, and Ouroboros wouldn't have been able to write the book without Victor Timely being there. So it's like, it's the chicken or the egg thing.
Right.
It's impossible. So I love those instances of things like that. I love the other one of Loki pruning himself in the hallway when the phone is ringing and everything.
That's a good one.
Yeah, I love those little kind of Easter eggs that they put into this. Those are really cool. I was geeking out over the concepts, and then I was also geeking out over over the weight and the gravity of the decision that he's making as well.
That is such a good way to put it. I mean, you know, we were lightly tickled by the Marvels, but gravity, man, like that's the thing that Marvel seems to have been missing recently. This show has single-handedly, I think, for me, has basically been carrying the phases up until this point. Because if you want me scared about Kang, guess what got me scared about Kang? The ending of season 1.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Not Quantumania.
Hell no.
Not whatever the hell else.
Yeah.
So that has done way more for me, and even him showing back up at the end of this, just like you said, I mean the sheer weight of this season, like it's Marvel has missed that connectivity while also bringing really good stories that mean something, and you know, it's almost like a Marvel throwback in a way. It's just a TV show instead of a movie, but I think they really hit out of the park. You know, there's a lot of unanswered threads and things. You can tell that they make these things on kind of the seat of their pants a little bit, and then there's a lot of unexplored threads because they literally just leave a lot of doors open for themselves and then just like edit their way into whatever they want to actually do. Right.
I mean, Jonathan Majors being the big, the big unanswered question, I would say, is where
what happened to Victor Timely? Where does he go? Let's talk about him, by the way. I mean, I know you and I might disagree on this a little bit, but I think that was a little bit overacted. I think it didn't need to be quite so much of a caricature. I guess I get why it was in some ways, and also, like, you know, later He Who Remains is like, oh, Victor Timely, and making fun of himself. Like, okay, cool. But, you know, and I guess they were kind of trying to say that he wanted to be like a Nikolai Tesla type figure, but he was kind of a bumbling idiot.
Right.
So, but he also wasn't, I don't know, but he wasn't a bumbling idiot either, because he helped save everything in the Loom, and he actually had knowledge. And so that the whole characterization didn't quite make sense. Like and then they just used him to turn into spaghetti like 25 times. And I didn't really get how I was supposed to feel about that character. Like, was I supposed to, because he betrayed Renslayer too, so at one point I was like, oh, he's actually kind of menacing, and he's like showing signs of becoming Kang, but then he helps everybody and he's still kind of a dope, and I don't know, I just wasn't, and it's not necessarily the performance. I think the performance was a caricature, and then the character was also written all over the place, and I just wasn't, I don't know, didn't always work for me.
I think that's totally fair. I think just in general, that is a symptom of a bigger issue, which is that all of the side characters outside of Loki were underdeveloped in season 2, I think. And that includes...
more acutely than one. Yeah.
I was particularly disappointed that Sylvie was...
not much.
Massively underutilized in this season. She was, for me, a huge highlight of the first season. I think she was like the protagonist of the first season,
practically.
And it was disappointing. I understand that Tom Hiddleston and that Loki character was really the central arc of this season, but I still wish they could have done more with some of the other characters in general.
There were obvious missed opportunities with Sylvie in particular, and I think Mobius got the most love.
Yeah, Mobius for sure.
At the end of the day, like seeing the Flash, like his kids, and learning his kind of origin, and then him revisiting that and having that kind of arc.
I think that's in part because I think we're unlikely to see Mobius again, other than maybe as a cameo in the future. I would be really disappointed if we don't see Sylvie again.
I wonder, to be honest.
Yeah.
Well, I bet like a Secret Wars she would show up.
I think they left it open. I mean...
Oh, yeah. She's around.
Yeah. I briefly want to step back. There's a handful of other things I want to talk to you about, but just stepping back into the lore that is established in these 2 seasons, I want to talk a little bit about He Who Remains.
Yeah.
So if you follow this logically, He Who Remains created all of the conditions so that Loki and Sylvie would show up in his office at the end of season 1, right?
Yeah.
Because he was just bored. He was bored as shit.
Maybe not just that, but go on.
And he creates this scenario where seemingly he is abdicating his role at the end of the universe, at the end of time, and giving Sylvie and Loki the option to either take his place or to, kill him and chaos ensues, right? In this season, they don't quite undo that, but they make it seem like that choice that he was presenting them with was kind of a false choice, and that he had kind of a backup plan. He wasn't actually going to ever create a scenario where he wasn't going to win, right?
Yeah, I think that's
right.
That seems Kang to me. Like, if we could boil down the threat that Kang poses as a villain thus far in the MCU, it's that he always has a fucking contingency plan.
Well, and to me, that shows two things, two big characterization things about Kang. And that is that, A, he is so powerful that he is literally bored, and that he I use that for a reason. Like, he had no reason to create this condition in the first place unless he just wanted to spice things up a little bit.
But I almost look at it differently, as in that time is a flat circle. Like, it was always going to happen. It always has happened and will happen, has happened and is happening.
But it didn't, because at least they're indicating that Loki is he's changing the course, the natural course or whatever,
But I guess I saw an interesting theory.
Creating a third option.
I guess I saw an interesting theory in, what if that's just an Ouroboros loop? Like, what if Loki sits on the throne and then eventually he who remains takes his place, and round and round and round we go?
Certainly possible.
Yeah.
The other thing that shows is that Kang is insanely cruel, because he created this whole fucking scenario so that Loki would spend centuries, we know at least centuries established in this show, trying to do this thing that is actually impossible. All to the point where he is trying to guide Loki to his only decision being he has to kill Sylvie in order to preserve the sacred timeline. That was the whole point of those 2 seasons of content, from his perspective, from Kang's perspective.
Sounds like a pretty good villain to me.
It really is. I mean, and it took me some thinking to get around to what was going on there, but I think that's what happened.
And I am so in agreement with you, and that excites me and tickles me just as much. But from the perspective of general audiences, the mental gymnastics, which is probably an overhanded way to stated way to put it, general audiences are not going to think that hard about it. Marvel has to do a better job of presenting this villain in a menacing way that doesn't necessarily require such reflection.
I mean, maybe, but
it's a little too convoluted right now.
Maybe, but I also feel like that's not essential. I still feel like there's a lot that you can get out of this, even if you're not digging that deeply into the character. I still think that your average moviegoer, your average Marvel watcher, will see the whole "see you soon" over and over and over and over again, and they'll get it, right? They'll get the kind of menacing inevitability that he represents, right? And this self-referential that I did love him getting spaghettified over and over and over again, the Victor Timely.
I know.
That was pretty fun.
Especially, I mean, and there's no way they could have planned this, but the week before there was basically backlash to that character getting spaghettified, because it's you always kill Kang or his variants, so it was just really funny that then we literally a week later watched him get killed 20 times.
It was so good.
Yeah,
it was so good.
Great
part
timing.
of me feels like that was like throwing a bone to the cancel culture, all the stories that have come out about Jonathan Majors, the actor, since then.
But truly, they shot and edited this a long time ago. Like you can't plan for that. I think that's just the beauty of pop culture. That's why we're here in the lab, Cam.
Okay, I got another couple things for you before we wrap up. I think it's interesting that both of these seasons end with just a conversation between Kang and Loki. Mm-hmm. And that they still manage to preserve the tension that exists, and that it still feels like a climax of these two stories. I think that's really impressively done. Mm-hmm. With a lot of talking and not a ton of action.
No. Yeah, no, I agree, and it's really well written in a way that picks back up at that point in time, but also like the way that Tom Hiddleston Loki delivers his lines to Sylvie, like right when he shows back up in Kang's office there at the Citadel at the end of time, like that when he gives such a different speech. You know, if you go back and watch the ending of season 1, he's like, oh, like don't do it for these reasons. But when he does it this time, he's like, I've been where you have been. I have felt what you have felt. You know, it's like, it's a completely different thing. It doesn't work, but spoiler alert, but it's but it like the whole season does such a great job with the progression of his character. But I think, as you and I were just reminded of, just we kind of watched a breakdown right before this, just to as a little refresher. Even just within that episode, his character takes such a trajectory. You know, he's already come a long way, and like you said, had all that stripped away. But it's still, over the course of that episode, takes centuries. Yes, he's kind of put up to a foil by He Who Remains over those centuries, but it also still kind of takes that for him to arrive at the place to make the decision that he's going to make to eventually sacrifice everything and become the God of Stories. So, yeah, it's really incredible.
Yeah, very impressive storytelling. I almost wish that they had spent a little bit more time just like showing the years passing while he was doing that. I think that would have added an even more of a sense of kind of this inevitability.
His performance picked up the slack.
It did.
But yeah. Also, just God of Stories. That's just an exciting thing to talk about.
Yeah.
Yeah, like for those who don't know, that is something that kind of comes from the comics, and it's a similar thing where it's a Loki who has, I think, like died, like again had everything stripped away, and he is faced with a choice, and the choice is to like actually have that glorious purpose that he has talked about for so long.
Yeah,
and it is so heartbreaking and bittersweet that he says. Whether or not it's entirely true is up to interpretation, but he says that he doesn't want to be alone, and that he wants to be with his friends. And then the last thing he says is for you, for all of us, which is the same thing he said to Odin in the end of, is it the first Thor or Dark World? Either one. But he realizes that in order to actually do that, like, if he does care about those people, then he actually has to sacrifice himself in this way and be alone and hold everything together, literally.
Right, yeah. Talk about isolating.
Yeah.
Heavy weighs the crown. Yeah.
Right. And he used to want a throne. And then in this episode, he says, the last thing I want is a throne. Yeah. But
it's the whole thing is a reversal and a subversion of that whole arc, that whole thing that was inevitable, right? That he was always destined to lose and not get the throne. And here he finally gets the thing that he's always wanted, that throne, but it actually is just this massive weight of responsibility, not this conquest or dominion over people. It's a sacrifice that he's making for all of humanity.
In fact, the opposite of dominion. You're sacrificing
a servant leader. Yeah,
exactly. In order for people to have free will.
Yeah.
So.
Really beautiful meta narrative in this show.
I mean, I think for my money, like for a villain, a real villain, like a comic book villain or a Disney villain, whatever you want to take it, especially villains that have had multiple appearances in franchises or properties over time. I just cannot think of a villain arc that is more full and well thought out and emotional and meaningful than this one. We've seen a number of redemptive villain arcs over the years, but none probably with this much time to breathe. But also, I just don't think any were executed as thoughtfully ever. It was a whole show dedicated to, just really like you said, boiling him down to his essence and then presenting him with this choice. And it's just so cool, I think it's. I think Tony Stark's arc is better, ultimately, but it's for my money. It's like number 2, maybe number 3 after. I don't know who else. Who did I think was number 3? Captain America. His arc is pretty good, but I think Loki's might be more interesting.
Loki's is better. Yeah.
Yeah.
More interesting. I mean, Captain America is
interesting.
It's kind of an obvious.
No, but his is really solid, and his ending, dancing with Peggy Carter, is quite poetic.
Sure, it's sweet, but I think this is a much more interesting story.
It's sweet, but also if you think about him as like a soldier, he served, he did his sacrifice, he did his duty, and he never complained about it, and so he deserves to, Tony Stark dies, he's the only Avenger that's like, I'm done. Peace. I'm going to retire now.
Yeah.
I'm just going to disappear into time and just kind of not come back. I'm going to come back hella later when I'm really old.
Right.
Sorry, oops, I just lived my whole life. Sorry, you weren't there.
Sure.
But I think he earned that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Anyway, but yeah, it's great storytelling. I think if you were to ask me who my favorite MCU character is at this point, I mean, Robert Downey did a lot. He carried the whole franchise for a hell of a long time, but Tom Hiddleston has been around almost just as long and given a great killer performance as Loki for many, many years. And I think he's my favorite. He's my favorite MCU character overall.
Well, and what I love is that he has he's given a lot of different flavors of that character over that time. I mean, this is a
Taika Waititi flavored Loki. Right.
Yeah.
Sorry to cut you off.
Well, I mean, he's always existed in this kind of, half villain, half comic relief. Like he had a buddy cop kind of dynamic with Thor for a while. And in this one, it has been a lot more serious. I mean, both of these seasons, season 1 and 2, has given you, he's had a chance to have a romantic interest and to really feel the loss of something that mattered to him when before there wasn't hardly anything that really mattered to him. So I think this has been fun to see Tom Hiddleston have a little bit more to work with too, in terms of that vulnerability, I guess, sharing that vulnerability of the character.
Absolutely.
It gave me some flashbacks. Speaking of Flash, I didn't even intend that. The Flash has the Dark Flash character who, at the end, keeps on trying to change the way that things play out to try to save his mom. Save the Flash's mom, and this goes for a similar concept, right? Tom Hiddleston, it keeps going back to try to change the course of events so that it doesn't end with this inevitable outcome. And And what did you think of that? Did that come up for you at all, or
What do you mean?
just that there's a lot of comparisons, I mean, and it's hardly a novel idea. What if the animated Marvel show as well did that with Doctor Strange, where he keeps on going back in time to try to save what's her name?
Oh yeah, I mean, I guess you're right. It's like a bit of a trope.
Yeah,
but
so it's a time travel thing.
Yeah, but I guess I liked in a way that it was done a little differently. I guess I might struggle to articulate it, but like with both the Dark Flash and Doctor Strange and that What If episode, it's kind of like I don't know. It's like a lesson. It's a parable of sorts. It's this like
that you can't
cautionary
change fate.
tale. Yeah. Whereas Loki, this is treated differently. It's used as a plot device in a different way, and and I agree with you. It's probably a missed opportunity to like not explore that a little bit more. Like it's really like gut wrenching when the title card hits centuries later. It's like the concept that centuries have passed, even just that notion makes you kind of like, whoa.
Claustrophobic almost.
But if we had seen it, like what would that actually look like, What did Groundhog Day look like if you're actually stuck in that for that much time? Like, the movie edits all together, but like day to day to day, what is that like? And for Loki, like learning all that information from OB, and it would have been fun to explore that. But I appreciated it as like a way to move things forward. And again, I think Tom Hiddleston's performance carried most of the weight of that concept, because after that, you felt like he had been around for centuries. He's finishing everybody's sentences.
He's frenetic.
And, which is writing, but also just the way that he was performing was, I think, spot on for that. So I bought it. I didn't think too much of it, but I liked that it was not used in this like cliched cautionary tale. It makes you dark. You go down the dark path. Like it was used in a different way for a different purpose, and I appreciated that.
What I appreciated, definitely, that was also the false dichotomy, the idea that He Who Remains was presenting Loki with this choice, and I, as the audience member, thought that Loki was going to have to kill Sylvie. I thought that was going to happen.
Same, yeah.
And so that the climax does it ends up reframing the whole choice that's in front of him,
right,
to being like a third option wasn't something that I had even kind of contemplated.
Really, the whole thing is like the journey to that third option.
Right.
Yeah. 100%. But it's almost like he just was too selfish to have ever seen that.
Yeah.
He just had to finally give a shit about someone and something and concepts bigger than himself.
Yeah.
To even be able to see that at all.
The sacred timeline isn't worth saving. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Free will is worth giving anything for.
Yeah.
But yeah, he was not capable of seeing that before.
Yeah, which in some ways it is the same story as the Dark Flash, which is recognizing that, there's something bigger than you and your needs. Like there is a whole interconnected world out there, I guess.
I guess that's true. But doesn't Dark Flash just die because he stabs himself by accident?
I guess he doesn't quite
he
learn
doesn't really
that
learn the lesson. Just for the record, he just dies. He is defeated. Yeah.
Well, that's pretty good.
Yes, sir.
That's all I got on this.
Nice. Yeah, and we covered some healthy ground. I know we talked about doing some local ratings.
Yeah.
Maybe that's too ambitious, but
yeah, I think we should save that for a future episode. But for our Seattle Seattle-based listeners, be on the lookout for some recommendations here, some restaurant recommendations.
Yeah, or any listeners just familiar with Seattle. Not even recommendations, but we're considering ranking some of our favorite, restaurants, favorite foods around here, burgers, fried chicken, what have you, sandwiches, breakfast burritos.
Yeah.
We've got some potential lists coming your way.
Gonna mix it up a little bit.
Yeah, so next time you're visiting Seattle, some good things to think about. But we hope you guys like breakfast sandwiches and bagels and
Who
all
doesn't?
sorts of shit. So, yeah. Shout out to the Bagel Deli. R.I.P.
Oh, yeah. R.I.P.
Yeah, we'll say that forever.
Pour one out for my homies.
And Picores.
Yeah. Those will get honorary mentions when we get to those categories.
I'm hungry now.
I know, right?
It's weird. Yeah. All right. Well, stay safe, everyone.
See you next
subscribe.
time.
All right. Follow us. Peace.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays.